छात्राभ्यां सर्वेभ्यः हृत्पूर्वकनमस्काराः। प्रवेशकक्ष्यायां सर्वेषां स्वागतम्। अद्य वयं सप्तमं पाठं पठिष्यामः। गतकक्ष्यायाम् अस्माभिः षष्ठः पाठः पठितः। किञ्चिदिव पुनरावर्तनं कृत्वा तदनन्तरं सप्तमं पाठं पठिष्यामः। सर्वे गुरुवन्दनं मङ्गलश्लोकद्वयं च वदन्तु इति प्रार्थये। गुरुरेव गतिः गुरुमेव भजे, गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे, न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः, मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो। ब्रवीमि संस्कृतं वाचा, ध्यायामि संस्कृतं हृदा, कुर्वे सेवाञ्च कायेन, वन्दे संस्कृतमातरम्। यो नरः संस्कृतव्योम्निह्यालयं रमते मुदा, संस्कृतिं चैव संस्कारं विन्दते नात्र संशयः। A warm welcome once again to all of you to Pravesha class. So last class we have completed lesson 6. We will have a quick recap of whatever we have learnt in the previous class. I will just be introducing these lessons which we learned last time, and we will move on. We will not do them in detail because you have the audio and the video recording available to you. Gata kakshayam Samskrita Vangmaya Parichaye asmabhihi स्वप्नवासवदत्त विषये ज्ञातम्। स्वप्नवासवदत्तं भासस्य नाटकम् अस्ति। तत्र महाराजः उदयनः, तस्य पत्नी वासवदत्ता, पुनः सः पद्मावतीं राज्य संरक्षणाय यौगन्धरायणस्य साहाय्येन पद्मावतीम् अपि परिणयति। तत्र यौगन्धरायणः महाराजस्य मन्त्री अस्ति, यः केवलं राज्य संरक्षणे निरतः अस्ति। तथा वासवदत्ता अपि राज्य संरक्षणार्थं तत्र सा नैव भवति। तत्र राज्ये पद्मावत्याः विवाहानन्तरं तदनन्तरं उदयनः जानाति वासवदत्ता अपि अत्रैव अस्ति, सा न मृता इति। So we learned about Swapna Vasavattam, and we also learned about a few other works of Bhasa, tasya Pratima Natakasya Vishaye ityadayah. So we know many, last class we have discussed this. You can go through the video and audio recording, but for the exam, we only have the plot of Swapna Vasavattam. That is what is given for your exam in your textbooks. Katha daivameva param iti katha asmabhihi pathita. Tatra lalata likhita rekha parimashtum na shakyate ityapi suktihi asti. दैवमेव परम्। संस्कृत व्यवहारस्य विषये तत्र कथम् इत्युक्ते हौ। स्वास्थ्यं कथम् अस्ति? स्वास्थ्यं समीचीनम् अस्ति। तदनन्तरम् अनुस्वारस्य विषये ज्ञातम् अस्माभिः। The rules for joining letters of anuswara, we have already learnt this. This will also help you in when you're reading and chanting as to how to combine anuswara with the vargiya vyanjanam which is in front of it. The vargiya vyanjanam will be replaced, and the anuswara also will be replaced by the by a samyuktakshara consisting of the last letter of the same varga, the fifth letter, the anunasika letter of the varga, same varga replaces the anuswara, and that is how we join anuswara followed by a vargiya vyanjanam. We saw some examples also. Subhashitam patitam asmabhihi. Chayamanyasya kurvanti तिष्ठन्ति स्वयमातपे फलान्यपि परार्थाय वृक्षाः सत्पुरुषा इव इति सुभाषितम् अस्माभिः पठितं. यथा वृक्षाः सर्वदा छायाम् अन्यस्य एव कुर्वन्ति, स्वयम् आतपे तिष्ठन्ति, परार्थाय फलानि अपि अस्माभिः परार्थाय फलानि वृक्षाः यच्छन्ति सर्वेषां कृते, स्वयं न खादन्ति फलानि. वृक्षाः सत्पुरुषाः इव. परोपकारार्थम् इदं शरीरं, परोपकाराय फलन्ति वृक्षाः, परोपकाराय वहन्ति नद्यः, परोपकाराय दुहन्ति गावः, परोपकारार्थम् इदं शरीरम् इति अपि सुभाषितम् अस्ति. इदानीं सप्तमः पाठः. प्रथमतः सूक्तिं पठिष्यामः. अस्मिन् पाठे सप्तमपाठे सूक्तिः एषा. मूढः परप्रत्ययनेय बुद्धिः इति. A very wonderful sukti, a wise saying. You know that we are commencing every lesson with a wise saying or sukti. And we have also, till now, I think in all the lessons, we have tried to find out the source of the sukti and the context in which it has been used in the context of a subhashitam. Similarly, we will do that in today's lesson also. Moodhaha parapratyaneya buddhihi. Moodhaha ityukte, an unwise person or a fool. Para means others. We have also learned, right? I think in one of the subhashitas we learned ayam nijaha paraha va iti ganana laghu chetasam udara charitanam tu vasudhaiva kutumbakam. So para means others. Pratyaya means pramanam or it can be used in various contexts like dependent, faith, conviction, or proof. Pratyaya. Neya is to be led by, guided by. Buddhihi means understanding or wisdom or mind. Again, contextually we need to understand. Moodhaha parapratyaneya buddhihi. The gist, the overall meaning is that a fool or an unwise person is always led by others' decision or others. His understanding is always guided or led by others. Meaning he or she blindly follows others without doing any critical analysis independently, without thinking objectively. When one blindly follows others, that is not a very desirable trait, right? So that is what this sukti is trying to tell us. But let us understand the context of it so that you will appreciate it much better. It's there on your screen. I will read it out. Puranamityeva na sadhu sarvam na chapi kavyam navamityavadyam santaf parikshyanyatarad bhajante moodhaf parapratyayaneya buddhihi. A very beautiful verse by our Kalidasa. And this is from his play Malavika Agnimitram. Puranamityeva na sadhu sarvam na chapi kavyam navamityavadyam santaf parikshyanyatarad bhajante moodhaf parapratyayaneya buddhihi. Very beautiful, one of my favorites, personal favorite subhashitams. So it means Puranamityeva sarvam sadhu na. Puranam means old, ancient. Actually, Puranam is ancient, relatively very old, not something which is recent in the past, but very old. Puranam ityeva sarvam sadhu na. Just because, merely because, ityeva, merely because something is ancient, everything that is ancient is not great. This is what Kalidasa is telling us. Just because something is ancient doesn't mean everything which is ancient is great. Nacha api kavyam navamiti avadyam. Navam means new. Some kavyam, any work, just because it is new doesn't mean it should be discarded. Doesn't mean it is, not up to the mark. Santaha parikshya anyatarad bhajante. Santaha, the great people, the wise people or the good people, parikshya, this is the key in the Subhashitam. So parikshya is after having examined, after analyzing, after independently putting their mind to it. Parikshya anyatarad bhajante. So they analyze or they critically think about it independently. Anyatarad bhajante. Then they decide whether it is good or whether it is something which is not up to the mark. They don't blindly follow whatever others say. Moodhaha parapratyyaneya buddhihi. However, a fool is his buddhi, his mind is such that he always just follows others, blindly follows others, an unwise person. So this do not become like that is the message Kalidasa is giving us here, to analyze every work or anything. This applies to any situation in life, right? Not just to a kavyam, but here the context is kavyam, which Kalidasa is telling us. So he is saying that we cannot blindly say everything is great, sadhu, just because it is old. Similarly, you cannot discard something because it is new. The great people, they pariksha, having examined thoroughly, they decide about the greatness of a work. Whereas an unwise person has the tendency to just blindly follow others. So this is a beautiful Subhashitam. It applies to a lot of things in our lives. As to whatever we learn, we have to critically examine it, analyze it, and then decide for ourselves. This also, this verse challenges a lot of bias, stigma, which we have in society about many things, right? So sometimes without even reading a work, we just go by, and that too not reading in the original, we have so many comments being passed about many works, be them they may be ancient or new ones, without even knowing what is there in it. Sometimes there are just comments passed, and especially I think now in the age of social media and so much of information, and everyone sharing their views about everything just by a click of a button on so many platforms, this I think is extremely relevant for today. We see so many forwards and posts, many of which may not be very thoroughly analyzed, and blindly following and blindly saying something. So Kalidasa warns us against this. He says, do not become like that. So always examine something and then decide for yourself how great it is or how worthy it is. And do not blindly follow what others are saying. A very great work, a great Subhashitam. We will just read it once again and then we will move ahead. Puranamityeva na sadhu sarvam na chapi kavyam navamityavadyam santah parikshyanyatarad bhajante moodhah parapratyayaneya buddhihi. Okay, next one. Atatra Angla Bhashayam atra arthaha asti. An unwise person is guided by others' understanding. He does not use his own judgment while taking a decision. Now, let us move to another grammatical aspect which we are going to be introduced in this lesson. Request all of you to please follow this carefully. We will just learn the very basic understanding of krit pratyaya. So pratyaya is a suffix. So a pratyaya is added. Now this krit pratyaya, there are many such pratyayas in Sanskrit, like krit pratyayaha, tadhitanta, etc. So we will learn a group of pratyayas called krit pratyayas. These suffixes can be added to roots, to the root, dhatu, right? Pat dhatuhu. So that is the root of the verb pathati. The root is pat dhatuhu. So when we add pat plus a plus ti, we get pathati. So how do we get pathati? Actually, I mean, that is there in your textbook also, I think in the 11th or 12th lesson. When you add what we call vikarana pratyaya and an akhyata pratyaya, then we get this word pathati. That is the kriya padam, lat lakara, prathama purusha ekavachanam. Now these pratyayas, like pat is the dhatu, a is a pratyaya, ti is a pratyaya. That is how pathati is formed. Now these akhyata pratyayas, vikarana pratyayas, they change according to many things. Like one factor is the lakara, that is the tense, and also ganas. The dhatus are divided into 10 groups, and accordingly the pratyayas change. Now, without going into all that for now, we should just know. Also, another place where you have come across this word pratyaya is, if you recollect, sup pratyayaha, right? So we have learned that the root of a noun is a pratipadikam, like Rama is the pratipadikam. And when these pratipadikam roots of nouns combine with pratyayas, then we get the table. They combine with sup pratyayas, which are 7 into 3 or 8 into 3, that is including Sambodhana Prathama. In 7 vibhaktis, 3 numbers. So we get these, the table of shabdas. So sup pratyayas are added to the pratipadikam of the noun, and we get Ramaha Rama, Ramaha. The root is Rama. It is combining with sup pratyayas to give us that table. So we have come across this word pratyaya in a number of contexts like this. Similarly, there is another group of pratyayas we are learning now, which are called krit pratyayaha. So this is what you see on the screen, krit pratyayaha. It is a very interesting concept, very important, very frequently used in conversational Sanskrit and written Sanskrit. You have already been introduced to it as we, in class, when we start, or sometimes when I speak to you in Sanskrit, you have already been introduced to this pratyaya. So as you learn, you will, today's class, you will be able to understand. You would have heard this many times when I'm speaking in class. So krit pratyayaha is, krit pratyayaha are a group. There are many krit pratyayaha, like ta pratyayaha, tavatu pratyayaha, shatru pratyayaha, shanach pratyayaha. There are many types of krit pratyayaha. But today we are going to learn one such group of pratyayas, krit pratyayas, called tavatu pratyayaha. Kta. So tavatu pratyayaha is one group, and we will learn more about this as you go further, even both in Pravesha and in your other lessons in Sanskrit. You will learn more such pratyayas. Now, krit pratyayantaha, kridantaha. That is the definition. So, krit antaha. Now, if you see this particular word, it consists of 2 words. Krit antaha. Antaha means what? In the end. Akarantaha, pullingaha, Rama Shabdaha, you've learned this. So antaha means in the end. So any word which is ending with a krit pratyaya is called a kridanta. It is as simple as that. Krit pratyayantaha, kridantaha is the definition. Krit pratyaya antah. The word which is ending with a krit pratyaya. What is that word called? It is called a kridanta. Krit pratyayantah, kridantah. Now, some krit pratyayas, sometimes what happens with some krit pratyayas when it is added to a dhatu. For example, let us take the dhatu pat. Okay, so let us see this dhatu pat. So, when we add ktavatu pratyaya to pat, this ktavatu here, this word which you see here, when we add ktavatu pratyaya to pat, it becomes pathitavan or pathitavati or pathitavat. So we are adding the suffix, the pratyaya, krit pratyaya called tavatu to the root. And what are we getting? We are getting pathitavan, pathitavati, pathitavat. So what are we getting? We are getting in each gender we are getting. Pathitavan is pullinga, pathitavati is strilinga, pathitavat is napumsakalinga. It is giving us a word called pathitavan. It is in past tense. Pat dhatu plus tavatu pratyaya gives us pathitavan or pathitavati or pathitavat depending on the gender. So balakaha pathitavan, the boy read. Balika pathitavati, the girl read. Then mitram pathitavat, friend. You know, mitram is napumsakalinga in Sanskrit. It means friend. Mitram pathitavat. So, what is happening here? We are getting forms like nouns, right? Similarly, this pathitavan can be in all three numbers. Pathitavan, pathitavantau, pathitavantah, pathitavati, similarly in all three numbers. Pathitavati, pathitavatyau, pathitavatyah. So, you would have heard Vayam sarve pathitavantaha pathitavatyah cha. Iti vadami khalu kakshyayam. Vayam sarve shashtham patham pathitavantaha pathitavatyah cha. Which means we all have read sixth lesson. Why am I saying pathitavantaha? That is for in the male gender, in the masculine gender. Pathitavatyaha is in feminine gender. That is bahuvachanam form. But if I have to say aham, I will say aham Samskrita bhasham pathitavati. I have read Sanskrit language or I have studied Sanskrit language. Also here, just the gender matters. It is aham pathitavati, tvam pathitavati, sa pathitavati. In all the persons, first person, second person, third person, it remains the same. So here we are seeing that when the pat dhatu is combining with ktavatu pratyaya, then what is happening? We are getting forms which are similar to nouns. Sorry about this. This is tavatu. Okay, let me just or I can also write it like this, tavatu pratyaya. So when pat is combining with tavatu, then we are getting pathitavan, pathitavati or pathitavat depending on the gender. And the number also changes. So you are getting forms similar to nouns, right? Like Ramaha, Ramau, Ramaha. Like that we are getting pathitavan, pathitavantau, pathitavantaha, pathitavantam. Like that you can have all the noun forms. In some cases, what happens when some other krit pratyayas when they are added, like for example, when you add something called a tva pratyaya, pathitva, aham patham pathitva kridanganam gacchami. These are just examples I'm giving you to get an overview of krit pratyayas. Later we will move to what is in this lesson. So aham patham pathitva kridanganam gacchami, meaning there are two actions here, reading action and going to the playground action. Aham patham pathitva kridanganam gacchami. So having read the lesson, I will go to the playground. Here the word pathitva, what you see, it is called a tvantavyayam. And this also has happened when a krit pratyaya, that is tva pratyaya, is added to pat dhatu. So when pat dhatu combines with tva pratyaya, then you're getting the word called patitva, meaning having done something, having read. It means having read. However, here this word patitva is an avyayam. Okay, so what I wanted to explain here to you all is some krit pratyayas, the resultant word, that is when a dhatu combines with the krit pratyaya, the resultant word sometimes is like a namapadam in different genders, different numbers, and you can decline it. However, when some other krit pratyayas combine with dhatus, the resultant word can be an avyayam, that is an indeclinable. One more example, vihasati. Okay, so vihasati, if you take, V is an upasarga, that is the prefix, plus has dhatu, plus lyap pratyaya. Here, when you add a lyap pratyaya to vihasati, you get what is called vihasya. So, plus lyap, when you add, you get a word called vihasya. Now, that also is used in the sense of having done. Vihasati is laughs or smiles. Aham vihasya tatra sa vihasya gatavati. So she laughed or smiled and left. Okay, so when that vihasya word, what you're getting, the resultant word, by combining a lyap pratyaya, that vihasya word is a avyayam. Again, the similar to this is also an avyayam. So sometimes a krit pratyaya combining with the dhatu, the resultant word can be an avyayam, indeclinable, like patitva, vihasya. This is tva pratyaya, patitva, vihasya is lyap pratyaya. But sometimes, for example, when tavatu pratyaya combines, the resultant word will be like a namapadam. So both things a krit pratyaya can do. Okay, so we will now learn about tavatu pratyaya, which is the subject of lesson 7. Kridantaha. Okay. I told you krit pratyayantaha, kridantaha. Now let us see the forms here. Pathitavan, pathitavantau, pathitavantaha. So this will be in Pullinga. So how are we getting this? We are getting this when pat dhatu combines with ktavatu pratyaya. So this what you see on the screen, this is ktavatu pratyaya. Here dhatu is pat. Okay, so when pat dhatu combines with ktavatu pratyaya, we are getting a kridanta. And what are the forms it is taking? It is similar to a noun. So it is similar to a subanta or a namapadam. Here, pathitavan, pathitavantau, pathitavantaha. Pathitavan is in Pullinga. Balakaha patham pathitavan. Balakau patham pathitavantau. Balakaha patham pathitavantaha. So here you see how according to the number, it is changing in ekavachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam. Balakaha patham pathitavan means the boy read the lesson. Balakau pathitavantau, 2 boys read. Balakaha pathitavantaha, the boys read. And always remember, ktavatu pratyaya gives us the meaning in past tense. So instead of saying balakaha patham apathat, you can say balakaha patham pathitavan. And also, like I said, if supposing a boy is saying that aham patham pathitavan, even then the boy will also say pathitavan only. In all persons, it is the same. Tvam pathitavan, saha pathitavan, aham pathitavan. Okay, so sometimes tavatu pratyayas make conversation and usage simpler than using, the lakara. So you would have heard this particular word multiple times in our class. Vayam pathitavantaha pathitavatyaha cha, right? So pathitavati is in Strilinga. Pathitavatyau pathitavatyaha. Strilinga ekavachanam, dvivachanam, bahuvachanam. Napumsakalinga pathitavat, pathitavati, pathitavanti. So here, if you see, it is similar. These two are similar. Strilinga ekavachanam and Napumsakalinga dvivachanam are similar. And we need to be careful because we need to know which is the noun being used. If it is a Strilinga ekavachanam noun, it will be Pathitavati. Okay, so that is how we use Ktavatu Pratyaya. So let us go through more examples. Chhatrah pathati. Latlakare vayam sarve janimah. Chhatrah pathati. The student reads. Chhatrah apathat. The student read in Langlakara. So we know that Chhatrah apathat is when we have Langlakara, then it indicates a past tense. And similarly, we can use Ktavatu Pratyaya. Chhatrah pathitavan. Atra Ktavatu Pratyaya asmabhihi upayujyate. So instead of saying Chhatrah apatat, we can say Chhatrah pathitavan. So pathitavan here is in past tense. The student read, both mean the same, whether it's apatat or pathitavan. Tavatu pratyaya rupam is Chhatrah pathitavan. Supposing it is Chhatra, that is a girl student, it would be pathitavati. If it is mitram, say friend, it would be mitram napumsakalinga pathitavat. Okay. Sa khadati, latlakare, present tense. Sa akhadat, langlakare, past tense. Sa khaditavati, she ate. That would be in past tense also, but by using tavatu pratyaya. Okay. Balakah kridati, latlakaraha. Balika kridati api latlakare asti. Balakah or balika akridat. This distinction we should see. For example, I mean, in this particular usage, when we use langlakara, whether it is balakaha or balika or mitram, in whichever gender, it is akridat only. Right? According to the gender, the form akridat doesn't change in past tense. However, when we use a ktavatu pratyaya, you should all remember I said the resultant, once the ktavatu pratyaya combines with a dhatu and it combines with a sup pratyaya, the resultant is like a namapadam. So namapadam has gender, right? Ramaha, Rama, Mitram, Phalam, etc. So the ktavatu pratyaya, the resultant word also has a gender. So balakaha kriditavan, balika kriditavati, mitram kriditavat. But if you're using simple past tense, langlakara, it would be akridat for whichever gender. But ktavatu pratyaya, on the other hand, according to the gender, we have to change. So pathitavan, pathitavantau, pathitavantaha, pathitavati, pathitavatyau, pathitavatyaha. Okay. This is given in your textbook also. Balika kriditavati. Let us see some more examples. And I reiterate, like every class, request all of you to please go through the textbook examples also. I will also go through today. I will read some examples from your textbook. But I request all of you to please do it because we are not reproducing the textbook here. We are giving you just a few examples. Chhatrah pathitavan. The student read. Balakah shalam gatavan. The boy went to school. Bhavan khaditavan. You ate. All these are in Pullinga. Pita pustakam drishtavan. So pashyati is drish dhatu, as you all might know by now. Pashyati becomes drishtavan. In Langlakara, it is apashyat. but with tavatu pratyaya it becomes drishtavan. Pita pustakam drishtavan. The father saw the book. Saha sevam kritavan. He did service, or he kritavan is to do actually. So kri dhatu, when you add tavatu pratyaya in pullinga you get kritavan. In strilinga it would be kritavati. Sa sevam kritavati, saha sevam kritavan. He did service. Bhaktau vanditavantau. Pullingah dvivachane katham bhavati. So we learnt pathitavan, pathitavantau, pathitavantah. So here bhaktau vanditavantau. Two devotees prostrate. Balakau shalam gatavantau. Two boys went to the school. Guru pathitavantau. So now you know we need to know our shabdas very well. Guruhu guru, guravaha. So guru is dvivachana rupam. Right? Dvivachane in prathama vibhakti it is guru. Guru pathitavantau. So two gurus taught. Pathitavantau taught. Pathitavantau read. Pathati reads. Pathayati teaches. So guru pathitavantau. Two gurus taught. Sevakau vrikshan drishtavantau. Two servants saw the trees. Tau bhojanam kritavantau. Those two ate food. Now we will see bahuvachanam in pullingaha. Bhaktaha mandiram gatavantaha. So gatavan, gatavantau, gatavantaha. Bhaktaha mandiram gatavantaha. The devotees went to the temple. Choraha dhavitavantaha. The thieves ran. Guravaha vyakaranam pathitavantaha. The gurus taught grammar. Guravaha, guruhu guru, guravaha bahuvachanam. Guravaha vyakaranam pathitavantaha. The gurus taught grammar. Te sahayyam kritavantaha. They helped, or they did. Kritavantaha is, like I said, did. So in English translation accurately would be, in English grammatically it is correct to say they helped. Te sahayyam kritavantaha, or they did help. Next, strilinge pashyamaha. Chhatra pathitavati. The girl student read. Sevika griham gatavati. The helper went home. Sevakaha is in pullinga, sevika strilinga. Bhavati khaditavati. You ate. Mata shlokam bodhitavati. Mother taught the shloka. Mahila karyam kritavati. The lady did work. Idanim dvivachane strilinge. Balike shlokam pathitavatyau. Pathitavati, pathitavatyau, pathitavatyah. So balike shlokam pathitavatyau. We know it is Rama, Rame, dvivachanam. Similarly, balika, balike, and pathitavati is similar to nadi. So nadi, nadyau, nadyah, pathitavati, pathitavatyau, pathitavatyah. So ikaranta. Now balike shlokam pathitavatyau. Two girls read a shloka. Chhatre shalam gatavatyau. Two students went to the school. Mahile apanikam gatavatyau. Two women went to the shop. Tarunyau nrityam kritavatyau. Two young ladies or two young girls nrityam kritavatyau danced. Grihinyau geetam geetavatyau. Grihini means homemaker. So the one who basically is the center of the home. Grihini. Grihini grihamuchyate. There is a very famous sukti in Sanskrit. Grihinyau. So grihini, grihinyau, two in dvivachanam. Grihinyau geetam geetavatyau. The homemakers sang a song. Next, we will see Strilinga Bahuvachanam. Balikaha Kridangane Kriditavatyah. The girls played in the playground. Kriditavati, Kriditavatyau, Kriditavatyah. For Pravesha, you can just know the Prathama Vibhakti forms. You don't need to know all the forms here, at least in the usage. In sentences, they have only given you Prathama Vibhakti forms. Balikaha. You know, Rama, Rame, Ramaha, Balika, Balike, Balikaha, Balikaha, Kridangane, Kriditavatyah. The girls played in the playground. Mahilaha, Devam, Pujitavatyah. The ladies worshipped God. Tarunyaha, Nakshatrani, Drishtavantyah. The young girls saw stars. Devyah asman rakshitavatyah. Devyah, Devi, Devyau, Devyah, like Nadi, Nadyau, Nadyah, similar to that. Devyah means the goddesses. Asman rakshitavatyah, the goddesses protected us. Taha Devam Vanditavatyah. They prostrated to God. Vanditavati, Vanditavatyau, Vanditavatyah, Taha Devam Vanditavatyah. They in Strilinga, Taha, Sa Te Taha. We all know by now the Shabda. Taha Devam Vanditavatyah. They prostrated to God. Now, Napupsakalinga, you can just know these. It's not given to you in textbook in detail, but just for the sake of completeness, these examples are shared with you. Kamalam vikasitavat, the lotus bloomed. Tat gatavat, that went. Yane chalitavati, yanam yane, dvivachanam form. So the two vehicles went. Your dog. Akashe, nakshatrani prakashitavanti. So, in the sky, the stars shone prakashitavanti. Vrikshat parne patitavati. From the tree, 2 leaves fell. So, parne, paranam parne, like vanam vane, or jnanam jnane, like that vivachanam. Vrikshat parne patitavati. From the tree, 2 leaves fell. Mitrani patram likhitavanti. The friends wrote a patram, letter. Okay, so the Tavatu Napumsakalinga, I think only Ekavachanam form is given to you in your book. Dvivachanam and Bahuvachanam are not given. Now we will go through some examples from your textbook. It is very important to go through the textbook also, not just our PPTs. So, Saha Patham Patitavan, he studied the lesson. Eshaha Uttaram Dattavan, this person gave the reply, Dattavan. Gajaha Simham Drishtavan, the elephant saw the lion. Pitrivyaha Prashnam Prishtavan, uncle asked a question. Balaha Phalam Khaditavan, the boy ate the fruit. Saha Adya Vilambena Uttitavan. Uttitavan, Uttishtati, Uttitavan. Saha Adya Vilambena Uttitavan. Today he woke up late. Narayanaha Sahayyam Kritavan. Narayana helped. Guruhu Dharmam Bodhitavan. Guru taught Dharma. Aham Mitraihi Saha Kriditavan. I played along with friends. Kriditavan. See, Aham also Kriditavan. Saha also Kriditavan. Then Tat, Tvam, if you use also Kriditavan. So according to the Purusha or according to the person, first person, second person, third person, the form doesn't change. However, according to the gender, it changes. So when a boy is saying, he will say Aham Kriditavan. When a girl is saying, she will say Aham Kriditavati. So that is how it changes. Okay. Sarpaha bilam pravishtavan. The snake entered the hole. Bhaktaha devam natavantaha. The devotees bowed to God. Balakaha kridanganam prati dhavitavantaha. The boys ran towards the playground. Graminaha katham shrutavantaha. The villagers listened to the story. Arakshakaha choram grihitavantaha. The police caught a thief. Choraha dhanam choritavantaha. Thieves stole the money. Balika griham gatavati. The girl went home. Adhyapika vyakaranam bodhitavati. The teacher taught grammar. Harini trinam khaditavati. The she deer grazed on the grass. Janani or ate the grass. Janani balam taditavati. Mother beat the boy. Grihini dhenum palitavati. The homemaker reared the cow. Sa satyam uktavati. So she spoke the truth. Uktavati spoke. Uktavan in Pullinga. Taruni katham likhitavati. The young lady wrote a story. Esha patram preshitavati. This person, in feminine gender, Esha patram preshitavati, sent a letter. Preshitavati. In Pullinga preshitavan. In Napumsakalinga preshitavat. Mahilaha natakam drishtavatyah. Ladies saw the play. Mayuryaha nrityam kritavatyaha. Mayuri is for a peahen. Mayuraha is for a peacock. So Mayuraha nrityam kritavan. Mayuraha nrityam kritavantaha. Mayuri nrityam kritavati. Mayuryaha nrityam kritavatyah. So according to the linga and the vachana, the form of the the resultant word, whether it is kritavan or kritavati, that changes. Pachikaha shakam kartitavatyah. The cooks cut the vegetable. Tarunyaha devam pujitavatyah. The young ladies worshipped God. Naryaha vastram kshalitavatyah. Women washed clothes. Kaha phalam nitavatyah? This is a question. Kaha phalam nitavatyah? Who carried the fruit away or who took away the fruit? Taha patram grihitavatyah. They took or held the vessel. Okay. So in all the above sentences, the words ending in tavatu, suffix, have been used. And they have also given you an explanation on how tavatu pratyaya should be used. So please go through that from your textbooks as well. Next, we move to Chaturthi Vibhaktihi. I think we may just have time to probably, introduce Chaturthi Vibhakti, and then we will go through it in detail in the next class. So we have learned 3 Vibhaktis in detail till now. So Prathama and Sambodhana Prathama as a part of Prathama only, that is vocative case Sambodhana Prathama, then Dvitiya Vibhaktihi and Tritiya Vibhaktihi. Adya vayam Chaturthi Vibhaktehe Vishaye Pathamaha. Ramaha phalam dadati. Ramaha karta Prathama Vibhaktau asti. Dadati kriyapadam. Tatra kim dadati Ramaha iti prashnasya uttaram phalam iti padam dadati. Tatra phalam iti padam karma padam dvitiya vibhaktau asti. Ramaha phalam dadati. Ramaha phalam kena dadati? Hastena, with his hand, instrument. Tatra karanam. Hastena iti padam tritiya vibhaktau asti. Ramaha phalam hastena. Kasmai dadati Ramaha. To whom does he give? Lakshmanaya. So, Ramaha phalam hastena Lakshmanaya dadati. So, the receiver of the action, the receiver of the object, here it is Lakshmana. Here he is Lakshmana, right? So, Lakshmanaya. Kasmai Lakshmanaya phalam dadati. Atra Lakshmanaya iti padam Chaturthi vibhaktau asti. Asmineva vakya we can have other variations. Ramaha pushpam hastena Sitayai dadati. Or we can just have Ramaha pushpam Sitayai dadati. Rama gives a flower to Sita. Atra danakriya vartate. Khalu Ramaha dadati. Kasmai dadati. Atra phalam Lakshmanaya dadati. Lakshmanaya. Here Lakshmana is the receiver. Lakshmana, the word is in Chaturthi Vibhakti. Similarly, Ramaha Sitayai pushpam dadati. Atra Sitayai Ramaha dadati. Kasyai dadati? Sitayai. Here it is Strilinga. So we all know Rama, Rame, Ramaha, Ramam, Rame, Ramaha, Ramaya, Ramabhyam, Ramabhiki, Ramayai, Ramabhyam, Ramabhyaha. Chaturthi Vibhakti Ramayai, Ramabhyam, Ramabhyaha. Sitayai, Sitabhyam, Sitabhyaha. So here, the receiver of the action, the receiver of the object is in Chaturthi Vibhakti. And we need to know the Shabdas to know how to use in which gender. Lakshmanaya Ramaha phalam dadati. Sitayai Ramaha pushpam dadati. Guruhu Shishyaya pustakam dadati. Guru gives the book for the sake of the student. So, Guruhu Shishyaya pustakam dadati. So, the question asked is, this is the general rule of Chaturthi. Then we have special rules. One special rule we've already learnt in all our shlokas. Whenever Namaha is used, the noun associated with Namaha should be in Chaturthi. Ramaya Namaha, Krishnaya Namaha, Gurave Namaha. We have learnt that, right? But we have other special rules also, which we will see. So, the question asked to the Kriya Padam is Kasmai or Kasyai. And the resultant answer you get is in Chaturthi Vibhakti. So, a few examples we'll see from your textbook also about the general rule. Vaidyaha Rugnaya Aushadham Yachati. So, Rugnaha means patient. So, Vaidyaha, the doctor, Rugnaya Aushadham Yachati. He gives medicine for the patient or to the patient. So, the word patient, Rugnaha, is in Chaturthi Vibhakti. Dhanikaha nirdhanaya dhanam yachatu. Dhanikaha, the wealthy person. Nirdhanaya, for the sake of the poor, or for the sake to the poor. Dhanam yachatu. May the or let the wealthy person give money to the poor. So, nirdhanaya, that word, nirdhanaya, is in Chaturthi Vibhakti. Okay. Then another, so we have Dana Kriya, we have learnt that act of giving or receiving, Saha Chatraya Pustakam Dadati. Now, purpose of action. So, for example, Lekhakaha Patrikayai Padyam Likhatu. So, for the sake of something, when you say, even that is in Chaturthi Vibhakti. Lekhakaha, the writer, Patrikayai Padyam Likhatu. Let the writer write a poem, Padyam, for the Patrika, for the magazine or for the journal. So, when we say that, or for the letter. So, that way, when we say for the sake of something, that purpose of action is also in Chaturthi Vibhakti. Kavayaha kirtyai kavyam likhantu. Let the poets write a kavyam or compose a kavyam, composition, for the sake of fame. Kirtyai, for the sake of fame. So, striyaha udyogaya spardham tam. Let the women compete for the job, udyogaya. So, when we are saying that the artham, that is the purpose of the action for the sake of something, that will also be in Chaturthi Vibhakti. Now, I think we have other rules also, which we will go through in the next class, because we can't complete Chaturthi Vibhakti today. So, what we will do is, we will just go through the Guru Shabda, which we already learnt in the previous class. I will ask one of you to read Guru Shabda for me, and we will conclude with that. We will learn other forms of Chaturthi Vibhakti in the next class. उकारान्तः पुल्लिङ्गः गुरुशब्दः. प्रियदर्शिनी भगिनी, कृपया वदतु गुरुशब्दम्.
नमस्ते भगिनी.
नमस्ते.
उकारान्तः पुल्लिङ्गः गुरुशब्दः. गुरुः गुरु गुरवः. हे गुरो हे गुरु हे गुरवः. गुरुं गुरु गुरून् गुरुणा गुरुभ्यां गुरुभिः गुरवे गुरुभ्यां गुरुभ्यः गुरोः गुरुभ्यां गुरुभ्यः गुरोः गुर्वोः गुरूणां गुरौ गुर्वोः गुरुषु.
उत्तमम्. धन्यवादाः प्रियदर्शिनी भगिनी. इदानीं यदि प्रश्नाः सन्ति पश्यामि. Let me just try to answer some of the questions. Sujata Rani Bhagini, ganas are groups of verbs. So there are 10 ganas. For example, if you see bhavati, hasati, likhati, pathati, and you see verbs like karoti, asti, you know, the forms change. It's as, for example, as dhatu is asti, sahasanti, asi, sahastha, asmi, swaha, smaha. Similarly, karoti is also slightly different. Karoti, kurutaha, kurvanti. So this difference is based on the pratyayas, which change according to each gana. So in the verbs in Sanskrit are divided into 10 lakaras, that is 10 tenses, and 10 ganas, 10 groups. So regarding this, we will learn a bit more in detail in the, I think, in the 11th or 12th lesson. Sujata Rani Bhagini again. Apathat, there is no gender for that word. So whether it is saha apathat, sa apathat, or tat apathat, it is the same. We cannot show gender difference there. However, when you use tavatu pratyaya, there you have to show the there is a difference in gender. That is how grammatically it is structured. Saha pathitavan, sa pathitavati, tat pathitavat. The noun forms we have learned only in the Prathama Vibhakti now. I don't think you have other noun forms in the Pravesha book. I will just check about that. Neuter gender also, I told you the Ekavachanam, Dvivachanam, Bahuvachanam forms, which I think is in the textbook, probably neuter gender only Ekavachanam is given to you. Santana Gopalan Krishnan Mahodaya, if I understand your question correct, the Ktavatu Pratyaya is used only in past tense. So we don't get it in present tense. So we don't have an equivalent of Ktavatu in present tense. So Ktavatu Pratyaya is by definition only in the past usage. So this is what we call Bhuta Kridantaha. So certain Kridantas are called Bhuta Kridantas, which means they always denote Bhuta Kala. That is past tense. They never are in present tense. So we don't have Tavatu in present tense. It is only in past tense. It is a Bhuta Kridanta. Okay. Venki Mahodaya, your name is shown as Venki. It is not a very tough concept. He has said it's a very heavy class. It is actually, once you start using it, it is very simple. And personally for me, I mean, it might be different for each of you. Personally, I feel Kridantas are simpler to use than your Lakaras. For example, once you, like Saha Patitavan, Sa Patitavati, or Aham Patitavati. So it just remains the same. And you don't, even in any person, it doesn't change. First person, second person, third person, it remains the same. And if you and I have used in this class, you would have heard a lot of this word being used, patitavati or patitavantau, patitavantah, patitavatyah. This you have heard a lot in this class. Srilata Bhagini, protsahayati is the verb in present tense. I think that is what you have asked. You've typed it out in English. If I understand right, I think that is what you have asked me. Or is it preshitavati? I'm not sure. I think there's some spelling error there. Preshayati is to send in latlakara. Lalita Bhagini, we will try to upload as soon as possible because we have many volunteers working, and also we have to edit sometimes at our end. So we will upload as soon as possible. Krit pratyaya can be applied to all verbs. Okay, Binu Bhagini, we have lakaras which denote past tense, and we have kridantas also, bhuta kridantas. Why we have both? Because that is how the grammatical structure of the language is. Even in any language for that matter, English or any language, you have multiple ways of conveying the same thing, right? So you have options on what you can use. In Sanskrit, similarly, in order to denote a bhutakala, that is a past tense, you can either use a lang lakara form, or you could use bhuta kridantas. So that is an option given to us. That is how the language is. Why we have both? It's good we have this option to use anything, whichever we feel is comfortable. And kridantas are very, very commonly used in conversation. Kta pratyaya, ktavatu pratyaya. Krishnaveni Bhagini, after Pravesha, the next level is Parichaya. Okay. So if there are any more questions, you can send me an email and I will answer them. I hope all of them have been answered. So we will conclude with Shanti Mantraha as usual. And please memorize the Shabdas and Dhatus we have done till now. On Saturday, you will, as usual, have your Abhyasa class. And we will continue with Chaturthi Vibhakti in the next class. Shanti Mantram Uktva Viramamaha. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha. Sarve santu niramayaha. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dhanyavadaha sarvebhyah. Agami Ravivasare punarmilamaha. Agami Shanivasare Abhyasa Kakshya bhavishyati. Sudha Bhaginyasah. Dhanyavadaha. Viramamaha. Ram Ram Ram.